Well, hello, my friends. It's Shawn Petite for DecoArt Media Design Team. And look at this cute fall project that we're creating today. Here are the supplies that we'll be using in this project. So I found this chalkboard in the dollar bin at Target, and I thought it would be a great piece to repurpose. So that's what we're doing today, and I am just going to grab my DecoArt matte medium, and I grabbed some vintage papers from my stash, and I'm just going to cover it up, and I'm going to give it a nice coat of matte medium on the bottom and on the top to make sure that all of those papers are sealed and down, because this, once it's done, is going to go on my front door. So now that that's down and sealed and dried, I've grabbed some DecoArt Chalky Gesso in gray and white. And the Chalky Gesso has a wonderful suede finish, and it works really well as a base layer for really anything. So I grabbed my brayer and brayered that out to just give it a real good grungy feel. It adds additional texture that will add to the paper texture. I'm layering the gray and the white to again bring some grunge and some fall feel to this, and I will layer white back on top of it. And I love using a brayer in this application because it's really grungy, unpredictable, and really gives you a good feel for some texture. So I've grabbed the pumpkin stencil, and I am mixing my paint into some gesso. So I'll use gesso and a little bit of Titan Buff and a little bit of quinacridone magenta for the pumpkins. And I'm just doing a light coat, and I'm kind of smushing it with my fingers just to really get an outline of the pumpkin. And I love using stencils as my guide because it makes it go so fast. Instead of having to draw it and reinvent the wheel, I can just stencil it out and then come back in and give it that touch of originality with some paints and different things like that. So now that I've got my pumpkins down, I'm going to add some fall leaves with some DecoArt fluid acrylics in some fall colors, and I've also grabbed a couple of Americana paints in like avocado and that kind of thing, and I'm mixing the colors again with some gesso and mixing the colors together so that the leaves aren't all one solid color but have some variation, and it just adds interest to your stenciling or painting when you do that. So now I've grabbed some DecoArt Media black gesso, and I love using black gesso to stencil with, or any gesso to stencil with the white or the black, because it leaves a little bit of a texture to it. It adds some interest and a little bit of raised area, and it works really well. It gives great coverage. So black gesso is great to stencil with. Adding some additional leaves to add some interest and bring some color up into the piece since it's really gray. Now my favorite product from DecoArt Media is some Crackle Paint, and I'm just using a palette knife to spread that on the pumpkins to give it some interest, and on the background because we're going to be adding some antiquing cream and really kind of grunging this up, and it will look wonderful with that Crackle Paint. I'm making sure to keep the area fairly neutral where I want my words to go. So I've grabbed my antiquing cream in gray, and I will also use teal. I'll put the gray down first all over and pull it back, and oh, it's so beautiful. I'll get that dry and then come back and put the teal antiquing cream over the top and separate the top from the bottom. So now that I've got the background done and all my antiquing cream down, I'm going to really add the pizzazz to the pumpkins, add some shading. I'm using DecoArt fluid acrylics to do that. I'm using burnt umber here. It gets really warm and we'll add that kind of vintage, antique, grunge feel to it. Really watered down and just kind of smoothing it out with my finger. I'm going to use some gesso now to highlight the owl, bring out some highlights around the body. I wanted to keep it light and let that paper show through from underneath, but I also wanted to separate it from the background a little bit more, so added some gesso to the body of the owl. So now I'm going to start adding my words, and I just grabbed a couple of fall stencils that had words on them, and I'm using the DecoArt Media black gesso, and I'm just placing the words where I want them, using what I can from each stencil. So now I'm going to come back in and shade around absolutely everything. And I'm using a charcoal pencil, and I love using my charcoal pencil to really separate things from the background. It gives it dimension, some depth, some grungy feel to it. I just love how it looks. I'm using an extra soft charcoal pencil and going really, really light to add some additional shading and some grunge around everything. So now that I've got everything shaded, I'm going to fill in my words just a little bit here with some carbon black fluid acrylic, and that is about it. I'll add a few more touches of shading and some shading around the edge of my piece, and then I'll add some twine to the piece that it already has holes because of what it was when we started, and it will be ready to hang on my door. I hope you enjoyed this project. If you did, I hope that you check out the DecoArt Media blog, and all of the supplies and everything will be listed there. And subscribe to the DecoArt Media YouTube channel, and I will see you next time in the next project.